Hello everyone, this is Big Lemon. Today I am going to be talking about how over the past 2 weeks I watched every Godzilla movie and it was torture. So basically Godzilla is without doubt the most recognizable movie monster of all time. There's just no doubt. And the only other one that comes slightly close is King Kong, and that's about it. I mean, really Godzilla is a, well, titan of the kaiju film industry. So, without further ado, let's begin. And also, I'm just going to be giving brief summaries of the movies because I don't want this video to be 2 hours long. So, hold on. So, Gojira from 1954. Gojira is, well, the first Godzilla movie ever made. It was actually just intended not to be a big monster brawl, but instead as a metaphor for the horrors of nuclear destruction. And honestly, I think it actually quite succeeds in that, because we see a lot of depressing imagery throughout the movie. Like, there is a lot of just really, really horrible things that happen that, like, there's this one scene where a mother is holding her two children, saying that they'll be with their father soon and not to cry, as Godzilla is about to blow them up with his atomic breath. And so, basically, after Godzilla attacks Tokyo, a group of scientists and government officials come together and decide that this guy, Dr. Serizawa, who made this bomb called the Oxygen Destroyer, should go down and kill Godzilla. So he does that, and it kills Godzilla at the end. Next one is Godzilla Raids Again. In this one, Godzilla, or another Godzilla, is, well, fighting another monster called Anguirus. I'm not sure if it's just my copy, but in my version of the movie, the action footage was sped up, so the monster fights looked like they were, seemed like they were in fast forward mode. I'm not sure if that's exclusive to mine, but who knows. Another thing about it is that in America, it was released as Gigantus the Fire Monster, which, that's a shit name, so come on. So, like, the plot is that another Godzilla comes ashore and is fighting another monster called Anguirus, and they fight and kind of destroy Japanese cities again, and it basically results in massive destruction. And at the end, I can't remember, but I think they both die, so, there's that. Then we have King Kong vs. Godzilla, where basically, at the end of the last movie, Godzilla got trapped in ice, and he reawakens, and this cartoony villain guy with this gay-ass mustache, basically wants to open up a theme park or something, and so he goes to Skull Island and kind of drugs King Kong, then takes him over to Japan, and then Kong breaks loose, and Godzilla appears, and then they fight. Honestly, it was actually quite solid for a really early Godzilla movie, especially considering it's using the suits and stuff. So, yeah, but really, overall, pretty decent movie. Mothra vs. Godzilla. To be completely honest, I don't really remember this one all that much. the only things I have written down in my notes here is that um, Godzilla fights a big moth and then two little moths. Um, really, the only thing I remember is that at the beginning, a giant egg washes ashore, and that's about it, and that's how Mothra hatches. Um, so, I'm not the biggest expert on Japanese kaiju film lore, but they never explain how the egg got there. They just have these like two little fairies that like say it's some spiritual hocus pocus bullshit, and frankly, that's all I can really say. Um, the next one is my favorite of the Showa era of Godzilla, Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster. So basically, this meteor crash lands, and out comes King Ghidorah from it, who then fights Godzilla, Rodan, and Mothra. Um, so basically, Godzilla, Rodan, and Mothra. Godzilla and Rodan fight. Mothra breaks it up, and then they go on to fight King Ghidorah. And it's actually really cool how they pull off the effects in this. There's this one part I like where Godzilla just kind of stomps on one of Ghidorah's heads, and I don't know. Hell, they just fuck up the puppet for Ghidorah in this. Like, Jesus, they really destroyed the person in the suit. The next one is Invasion of Astro Monster. In this one, Ghidorah, who's alive or like a different version, basically these aliens come to Earth and ask to borrow Godzilla and Rodan to fight Monster Zero, as they call him, but it's just Ghidorah. So then they allow them to take Rodan and Godzilla, and then they fight Ghidorah and tell him to fuck off. Then Godzilla and Rodan are sent down by the aliens to attack Earth. But then, like, the army or something subdues them and sends them back into hibernation, and the aliens fuck off. Overall, this was a really interesting one, but my favorite part has got to be the Godzilla victory dance. Feast your eyes on this. I know, it's quite ridiculous. To me, it kind of looks like he's jumping and doing a salute. I don't really know what to call that. Although I do know, this totally means Godzilla fucks. So the next one, Ebirah Horror of the Deep, is one of the worser ones I've seen because, like, okay, the dub I watched had these really annoying voice actors doing this, like, offensively bad Japanese accent, and it was like, nah. So, basically, Godzilla is like a sleep on this island that's run by a terrorist group called the Red Bamboo, and they use this monster called Ebirah, who is, not joking, a giant fucking shrimp, to fight Godzilla and kill the natives. But Godzilla, with help from Mothra, defeats Ebirah quite easily, and the movie just kind of ends. But, like, I mean, come on, look at Ebirah. He's a giant shrimp. Literally, ebi is the Japanese word for shrimp. Like, I don't... Like, that's honestly one of the dumbest ideas you could possibly have for a monster. Like, you have King Ghidorah, a giant three-headed space dragon who shoots lightning from its mouth. Like, that's fucking cool. And then you come up with fucking with a giant shrimp. Like, come on, Toho, like, step up your game. Yeah. The next one is definitely one of the worst ones, Son of Godzilla. So, basically in this one, these scientists are running this, like, weather experiment on this island, and the weather kind of, like, affects the radiation levels or something, some bullshit science answer, and causes these giant mantis and a giant spider to like grow and stuff. Um, so basically, Godzilla then comes to the island because he has like an egg there or another version of his species there. Like I don't know. Like okay, so then we get introduced to Godzilla's son Minya, and they both like fight the monsters, and it ends with them being like frozen because like the weather experiment goes wrong and they send the island into like a cold hellscape. But yeah, okay, now I need to talk about Minya. Um, Honestly, for half of the movie, I genuinely didn't know how he was Godzilla's son, since it's never explained if Godzilla had a mate or if this is some other one of his species' kids. And then I just have to wonder. And then until like this one part where Minya breathes like a smoke ring, I was wondering if he was even the same species of as Godzilla. Because I mean, fucking look at him. He looks like what would happen if Barney the dinosaur fucked the Michelin Man. Ugh. And then Godzilla's design in this makes him just look like a frog to me. I don't know why, but maybe it's the beady eyes. Like, it's genuinely, honestly, it's just a really bad movie altogether, and like, truly just a really shitty movie. Okay, the next one is actually a really good one, Destroy All Monsters. So basically, all the monsters have been relocated to this place called Monster Island. But then these aliens come down and like release King Ghidorah, and they like kind of make all the monsters go around and destroy a bunch of cities and stuff, and it's really cool. And then they, Godzilla and all the other monsters except for King Ghidorah kind of snap out of it, and then go and attack King Ghidorah, and it's like the fight is really cool because it's just all these monsters ganging up on this one monster, and it's like they just beat the shit out of the puppet. Like, my god, they fuck it up more than they did in Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster. Like, holy shit, there's this one part where it genuinely looks like the actors were hurting the guy in the costume, or like you can almost see like one of the necks have their like wiring and stuff ripped out. And it's like, okay guys, tone it down a little, you know? Anyways, so right after a really good one, we have the worst one in the entire series, All Monsters Attack. Now, Destroy All Monsters was actually intended to be the last Godzilla movie, but that obviously didn't end up happening, and because Toho was running through a financial problem at the time, they just thought that making another Godzilla movie would bring in some cash, which ultimately this one did. However, at the cost of being a good movie. See, most of Godzilla's footage in this is from stock footage from some of the other ones, and it's just it just feels really lazy. But the worst aspect is that you have this annoying little shit as the protagonist. Okay, there is a Like, I cannot explain in words how much I despise this child. Like, he is so annoying and just the biggest little shit I have ever seen. Like, okay, so like at the beginning he like gets bullied, and because of that he runs away and then goes home and dreams about being on Monster Island, where he finds Minya, and Minya and this one talks, and it just sounds so horrible. Like, it's just. But then he like wakes up and then decides to go around and play around in an abandoned building for some reason. And the weirdest part of the movie happens where he like dry humps a car. I'm not making that up, but like he just dry humps this car, and I don't know. I was just in disbelief because it comes out of nowhere and it's never commented upon by anyone. So then he goes into the abandoned building and finds the wallet of these two burglars who have just robbed a store. So they follow the kid home and break in and kidnap him, and then it kind of like goes into Home Alone territory where where the kid escapes, and then like honestly just really beats the shit out of them with a fire extinguisher until like the police show up, and that's kind of how the movie ends. And then it ends with him standing up to the bullies by joining them by and so at the end of the movie he decides to just become friends with the bullies, and it is like a really shitty message. Instead of standing up to the bullies, he just becomes friends with them by honking this painter's horn, causing the painter to fall off the ladder and have his paint spill all over his face. And really, you better hope that the paint didn't get in the guy's mouth, because this was when they were using lead in the paint, which means that would be very deadly. So yeah, to the actor who portrayed this child, go fuck yourself. I fucking hate you, you little piece of shit. So the next one is Godzilla vs. Hedorah from 1971, and I wouldn't really call this one a movie, and more of like a hour-long acid trip, because that's what it feels like. It was supposed to be about the environment and stuff and how pollution is bad, but it just ends up being really weird because there's a part where like to fight Hedorah, who's like a monster made from pollution, Hedorah like flies away, and so Godzilla like curls up his tail between his legs and then uses his atomic breath to fly, and it's so ridiculous. Like, holy shit, I was not expecting it. Um, it's just ridiculous. And then there's these weird animated segments, and then there's this one part that I remember where it was like at a rave, I think, and these people wearing fish masks, and it was getting all really trippy, and then Hedorah shows up and kills everyone, and it's like, honestly, when I finished this movie, I was like, the fuck? Like, I was in disbelief at what I had just watched. Like, I didn't know if what I experienced was real or not. Honestly, this was just a really weird movie and is often ranked as one of the worst movies of all time. I wouldn't put it there, but like, it's pretty bad. The next one is Godzilla vs. Gigan. And so these like they were like revealed as aliens who are attempting to invade Earth by setting up this like fake theme park that's supposed to like mind control everyone or something. And because Godzilla shows up in Anguirus 2 and they fuck things up for him, they send out this monster Gigan and King Ghidorah to fight them. And Gigan is like a strange sort of monster. He's a weird mix between like a chicken and a robot. Like he has a buzzsaw on his chest and like hook arms. It's and a laser eye. It's like a really cool monster, but at the same time, like probably something I would come up with when I was 5. Like it's overall it's not a bad movie, but it's also not great. Obviously, the monster fights are the highlight. So, anyways, moving on. Godzilla versus Megalon. This one sucks. Like a sinkhole opens up, and that leads to these scientists discovering that there's an subterranean realm where these like other humans live, and they have a monster there called Megalon who who has like drills for hands, and he's like just a giant beetle. Basically, they send Megalon out to conquer the world. However, Godzilla and a robot called Jaguar, who was made by the scientists, stop him. But then the subterranean people have contact with the aliens from the last movie, so they send out Gigan too. And then they all fight, and it just like it just gets really weird. Like there's a part where Godzilla like slides on his tail and drop kicks Megalon, and it's like it's creative, yeah, but like kind of ridiculous considering this is the same monster that like 10 movies ago was killing innocent people. Like I know this was more intended for children, but it still just felt weird. Next one is Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. So another type of some more aliens come in, and they create a Mechagodzilla, and they have him fight Godzilla and another monster called King Caesar. So Mechagodzilla like appears and is like destroying a bunch of cities, and then he like goes to destroy Okinawa, and so Godzilla and King Caesar show up to stop him, and it was like actually quite interesting because Mechagodzilla has like missiles on for fingers and then like rainbow eye lasers. It was like really cool that they managed to pull off a lot of these effects practically. Like at one point it seems like the suit for Godzilla actually catches on fire. And I don't know, it was a pretty good movie, but overall not the greatest, but still pretty damn good. The next is Terror of Mechagodzilla. So basically the aliens are back and Mechagodzilla's back too, so he comes back to destroy Godzilla and has help from this other monster called Titanosaurus. So Mechagodzilla and Titanosaurus fight Godzilla and they lose. I think at the end Titanosaurus like teams up with Godzilla to fight Mechagodzilla. I'm not too sure, but like I'm not sure. But Titanosaurus has like this weird like roar where it sounds like a cat stuck in a dishwasher. Like I know that's a very strange description to give, but it's the only one I can think of. Like he just sounds so weird. So basically, this was the last Godzilla movie in the Showa era because Toho kind of ran out of money until 1984 when we get The Return of Godzilla. Honestly, I forgot the plot of this one. I just know that, like, Godzilla, like, it's like a reboot, but they call it The Return. I think it's like a direct sequel to the original 1954 one, where, like, another Godzilla appears and is attacking Japan again. So, that happens, and then, really the only thing I remember is that when researching stuff for this review, I came across this. It's like, this was an ad for the American release of the film, where they had like a big sponsorship with Dr. Pepper, and I don't know, they often do like, in the movie, they have like a lot of like sponsorship of Dr. Pepper, and it just feels so like sell out. Like, it feels like Toho was like selling out with this. So overall, a pretty good movie for the most part, but I don't remember it at all. The next one is Godzilla vs. Biollante. So, um, fuck this one. Okay, this one, like, Godzilla loses some of his cells, and they go up into the atmosphere or something, or like, something, and then, like, no, I know, I'm getting confused with Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla, which is later in this video, but, so, in this one, some of his cells are, like, morphed with plants, and that creates a new monster called Biollante, who Godzilla fights and defeats. And I just have to say, Biollante is both one of the coolest and dumbest premises for a monster, because the design they use is really cool. Like, I really enjoy this design. Like, it's badass. It's intimidating. But at the same time, it's kind of stupid. Like, it's him fighting a plant monster. And I found out when researching this, the concept was actually created by a fan who made up the monster of Biollante, okay, because Toho was hosting a competition for who would for people to decide the next Godzilla movie. And honestly, it's a pretty decent film. Like, overall, it's pretty good. But at the same time, it's stupid that he's fighting a plant monster. So the next one is, without a doubt, one of my favorites in the series, Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. So these time travelers, they come from the future and warn that Godzilla will destroy Japan. So they go back in time to when Godzilla was first about to be mutated by the nuclear bombs. And basically they remove him and leave these 3 little monsters called Dorats. Okay, they do time travel stuff in this movie because Terminator was pretty big at the time, and there's this part where they have like a robot that's really, that you can tell a lot of it was inspired by the Terminator, because at the end of the movie, okay, so Godzilla is removed, and then the Dorat, and then these 3 little things called Dorats are left behind to be mutated by the radiation, and thus become King Ghidorah. And so the main characters are like, holy shit, the time travelers are actually wanting to destroy Japan more. So they go back in time as well, and like drop bombs on where they left Godzilla, so that he can mutate and thus become Godzilla and fight King Ghidorah again. So then Godzilla appears and he and King Ghidorah fight, and it's cool, but then Godzilla kills King Ghidorah and starts attacking Japan itself. So they realize, well, we need to revive King Ghidorah to fight Godzilla. So it's like a constant cycle. So they resurrect King Ghidorah as Mecha King Ghidorah with like a robot head and robot wings. It's really cool. So then they fight. So then Mecha King Ghidorah and Godzilla fight, and then they like both get trapped at the bottom of the ocean. And so that's how the movie ends. It does some time travel stuff, and it's interesting, but at the same time, like, really strange. Like, I was kind of confused during it, and it kind of fucks up the timeline. So, take it as you will. The next one is Godzilla vs. Mothra, the Battle for Earth. And I don't know why, but, like, I don't really like this one all that much, even though it is, like, the monster fights are some of my favorites, but at the same time, it's like, to me, it's just, like, a really boring movie. So, like, Mothra and this other monster called Batra, like, team up to fight Godzilla after Godzilla, like, tried to kill them both and stuff when they were larvae, and I don't know, they deal with a lot of Japanese spiritualism that I didn't really get, but like overall I didn't really like this one all that much, but like it's okay, but not my favorite. Next one is Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2, Electric Boogaloo. So you may be confused by that title, and I was too, and that's only because this is the American version. It's just called Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla in Japan, even though that's the name of the other one. So, like, I don't know, it's confusing with the titles and stuff. So, basically, Godzilla and Rodan, uh, like, team up to fight the humans who made a Mecha Godzilla to fight Godzilla, and the monster fights are pretty cool. It's interesting. However, Rodan, I'm not sure, but it feels like they, like, made her Godzilla's mate, because it's like a female version. And so they have this little Godzilla that Rodan was protecting, so I'm not sure if there was some cross-species breeding, but who knows. I'll leave that up to the DeviantArt fans. Um, so Godzilla and Rodan fight Mechagodzilla, and Rodan sacrifices himself and gives up his, like, fire atomic powers and kills himself in the process to heal Godzilla so he can kill Mechagodzilla and save the little Godzilla. So that's what happens. Overall, I really enjoyed this one more than the previous one, but there are some problems, namely the human characters being boring as shit. So, but yeah, the monster fights are definitely worth it. Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla. So, fuck this one. This is without a doubt one of my least favorites because it's like just an overall confusing movie because like the science behind there being a space Godzilla is like kind of bullshit, and it shouldn't even exist because of the timeline established in Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. So basically, Space Godzilla is created from the Godzilla cells that Biollante had. When Biollante was killed, some of those cells went into outer space and formed Space Godzilla. And he came down and tried to kidnap Godzilla's son, Godzilla Jr., as they call him in the movie. And it fails, and Godzilla rescues him. and kills Space Godzilla by like destroying his weird crystals. And I just have to say, Space Godzilla's design is really stupid to me. Like, he looks so dumb with the crystals on his shoulders. Like, it. Like, I know it's probably the best they could come up with, but it still looks really stupid. So next one is my favorite of the Heisei era, Godzilla vs. Destroya. So basically, Godzilla is burning up in this movie. He's going through like a nuclear meltdown, and if the humans don't stop him, then he will explode and kill everyone on Earth. So pretty big stakes. And so it's revealed that the oxygen destroyer from the first movie caused like these weird cells from Godzilla to like mutate and stuff and become this new monster called Destroya, who is like, honestly, he's like a mix between like looking like the devil and just honestly, it's just a really badass design they go with, because like, I don't know, I just really like it. And so Godzilla and Destroya fight, and Godzilla is able to kill him, but then Godzilla's about to melt down, so they start to freeze him with freeze rays, and it works, and he like mildly explodes. But because he exploded, a lot of his cells and like nuclear radiation stuff transferred to his son, who was like right next to him when it happened, and so Godzilla Jr. becomes the new Godzilla. However, this timeline was never continued because fuck it. So this was intended to be the last Godzilla movie ever. It's not, spoilers. And then in the mid-90s, Toho sold the film rights to TriStar, and they made Godzilla 1998. Now, I know a lot of people really hate this one, but I grew up watching it, so I love it, even if it is on a level bad and mediocre. So Godzilla is mutated by the French atomic tests in the 50s. He's like an iguana that's mutated by the tests and becomes Godzilla. And so Godzilla then like swims and attacks New York, and he thus and just kind of destroys Central Park and stuff. It's it's kind of dumb, especially because Matthew Broderick's in it, and he just kind of seems like he doesn't really give a shit. And so Godzilla is like easily taken down in this movie by missiles. In fact, a majority of the action sequences, the military is more responsible for destruction of the city than Godzilla is, because they keep missing him. Like, how do you miss a giant monster? I know he's running fast because he's a more sleeker design, but still, it shouldn't be hard to miss him. Anyways, it's like, then they also took inspiration from Jurassic Park, obviously, because there's a part of the movie where Godzilla is like a female in this one and laid eggs. So that means she must have been pregnant when Godzilla, when they were like still an iguana, and thus mutated, but that's not the case. So, okay, they have a weird explanation of Godzilla being able to reproduce asexually, which bullshit. Like, I'm not sure that's how that works in iguanas, but apparently it is, so I won't question it. So yeah, then they like fight the baby Godzillas, and it's like a lot of Jurassic Park knockoff stuff in it, and I know it's dumb, but I really love this movie because of growing up with it, and I don't know, it will always be special to me. And I know a lot of people hate this design. I actually really don't mind it, but in complete honesty, I really would have preferred if they went with their original design, which was this. So, come on, TriStar. What the hell? Okay, so after Godzilla 1998 was hated by the fans, Toho redid Godzilla again with Godzilla 2000. In this one, I kind of forgot what happened since I fell asleep watching it, and I did not want to rewatch the movie, but Godzilla is attacking Japan and stuff, and throughout the movie this weird alien ship thing appears and is attacking cities as well, until the ship itself transforms into another monster called Orga, and Orga tries to swallow Godzilla to absorb his energy and become a replica of Godzilla. However, Godzilla kicks his ass and kills him. See, honestly, I fell asleep halfway through and only woke up in the last 30 minutes, so I can't really give much of an opinion on it, but from what I did see, the monster fights are pretty good. And also, this starts the Millennium era of Godzilla, and I have to say, this has got to be my favorite design of Godzilla. I just love the purple spikes on his back and his really intimidating face. Honestly, it generally looks kind of menacing. If I saw that over my house, I'd be terrified. So yeah. Then Godzilla vs. Megaguirus, which this one's I don't really know how to describe it. It's just Godzilla versus a giant bug. And it's yeah, the fights are cool, but the human characters are a big focus of it, and it's really dumb. I think it's there's a part with a guy who makes robots and stuff, and he's the main character, and he's just so fucking annoying. He constantly will chime in, this is a fact about Megaguirus, this is a fact about Godzilla, this is a fact about robots. Bro, shut the fuck up. Stop being a backseat kaiju driver. Okay, overall, not a bad film, but not a perfect film. So, next is Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All Out Attack. Fuck that name. Why can you not come up with another name? Guys, come on. So basically, this is not a direct sequel to the last one, but instead, Godzilla is it focuses more on Japanese folklore and spiritualism and stuff, and revisionist history. So it's a good movie. It's one of my favorites, without a doubt, but the origin of Godzilla in this is in my opinion, kinda dumb. So Godzilla is the vengeful deaths of American World War II soldiers who died in the Pacific, who basically, with the power of nuclear bombs, because that's what America did in World War II, they form Godzilla as a vengeful demon and start destroying Japan. And then these three guardian monsters called, which are King Ghidorah, Mothra, and Baragon, appear and fight Godzilla. Godzilla kills Baragon, and Mothra and King Ghidorah kill Godzilla. And really a good movie, and I like that it focuses on revisionist history and how you shouldn't distort the pasts. But there's this really part that's supposed to be sad, but is kind of funny to me, where this woman in a hospital is watching out her window as Godzilla walks past and is destroying the city. And as he walks past, he's like, oh, thank God. And then his tail just swings around and hits her room and kills her. It's Like, I know it's not meant to be funny, but it is. I'm probably an asshole for that, but I don't care. So the next one is Godzilla against Mechagodzilla, and honestly, I don't remember much of this one either. Like, I know they, to fight Godzilla, they take the skeleton of the original Godzilla, because this one's also connected to the first one, um, and put it in this new, and put it into Mechagodzilla. However, Mechagodzilla has the soul of the original one stuck inside him, and thus goes on a bloodthirsty rampage because it's the original Godzilla now. So Godzilla and Mechagodzilla fight, and Mechagodzilla is like damaged but not destroyed, and that leads into the next one, Godzilla Tokyo SOS. So, I'm gonna be completely honest, this one, I fell asleep again. I was really tired coming home from work and then having to watch this. I fell asleep. I know I shouldn't have, but I couldn't help it. So, Godzilla, Mechagodzilla, and Mothra fight, and that's really the most I remember of it. I can't really give much of an opinion on it since I don't remember it, but, the monster fights are pretty cool. That's about all I can say. Next we have Godzilla Final Wars, which is honestly just a sort of a less serious, more campy version. And it's really cool because this one was intended to be the last Godzilla movie. Spoilers, it wasn't. Again. So, Godzilla and all the other monsters are hunted down by these mutants, because, well, this was around the same time X-Men was super popular. So, the mutants are taken over by these aliens called the Exilians, who are the same ones from Invasion of Astro Monster. And so the aliens then kind of kidnap all the monsters and make them fight Godzilla, and the human and the main characters have to lead Godzilla to all the monsters so he can fight them. And so they do that, and Godzilla obviously wipes the floor with them. Godzilla even fights the 1998 version of Godzilla, and it was really funny because he instantly kills him. There's not even an actual fight. He just instantly whips him with his tail and blows him up. Kinda sad for Zilla, or as they call him in the movie, but hey, tough shit. So yeah, it gets really big with the climactic final battle, and the final battle is Godzilla versus Gigan, who has buzzsaws for his hands now, and King Ghidorah again. And then they intermix that with martial arts scenes with the main character and the main villain. Overall, I really loved this one, especially growing up watching it, and honestly, it still holds up today. It's awesome. I don't care what people say, it is awesome. And so, I just have to say, Gigan and King Ghidorah's design in this was they are just badass in this. Gigan looks actually intimidating and not like the goofy ass monster he was. King Ghidorah doesn't look like he can move his heads all that much, but it's still really interesting with the design they went with, because it's not like the usual design they go with. So the next one is Godzilla from 2014, which begins the MonsterVerse. So in this one, there's an organization called Monarch who has a bunch of secrets about monsters they know exist, and one of them is Godzilla. So basically, these two monsters called the Mutos escape, and Godzilla goes around and goes to San Francisco where they're mating at and fights them and kills them. Overall, it's a really, really good movie. But my only criticism is that it's like way too dark, not in tone, but in like brightness. You can't see shit. Like they set most of the fights at night, and I had to turn the brightness up on my computer just to see what was going on. And the reason why this movie gets 10 out of 10 for me is because it has my goddess Elizabeth Olsen. No further questions. So the next one is Shin Godzilla. This one is like really interesting to me because Godzilla's not really a monster, more just like a really tortured creature that, if you look into the science of it, is seemingly in constant agony throughout the movie. Like, genuinely, I just kind of felt bad for it. But, like, he's destroying cities, so the fuck do I know? They have, like, him shoot atomics lasers out of his dorsal fins and tail. I don't know, it was a really interesting take on Godzilla. It's one of my favorites, but like I understand that a lot of people are going to be bored by the amount of meetings that are in the movie because like it's a criticism of the Japanese government's bureaucracy and inefficiency from dealing with the Fukushima nuclear disaster in 2013, I think. But like, yeah, that's what it was intended for, and I don't know, it was a really good movie. And I would have loved to see a sequel, but we're probably never going to get one because I feel like there's so much more about Godzilla that we could dive into in a sequel. Like the ending shot is like these little creatures that resemble Godzilla coming out of his tail, and it's like, what? Like it's an interesting concept. Like it 100% is, and I don't know. I wish he could have gotten a sequel. So then we have some of the worst of the bunch, the anime trilogy. The anime trilogy is so boring and just, God, I hate it. I hate it so much. So in these, the humans have had to leave Earth because Godzilla got so big that they can't survive with him anymore, and Godzilla's kind of destroyed the ecosystem, but like built a new one or something. Um, so then they like find Godzilla is like super big now, and then they find that their version of Mecha Godzilla is like a transformer and transformed into like a defensive city called Mecha Godzilla City, and it's kind of dumb, but whatever. And so Godzilla just moves really slowly throughout he just stands there. That's basically what he does throughout the trilogy, and it's just horrible. Then in the third one, this guy, the villain, kind of like prays to this mad god Ghidorah, and Ghidorah comes down, and he's not even in his body form. He's just three long heads with like really long necks, and they fight Godzilla, and obviously Godzilla wins. Overall, these are really bad, and I would not recommend them to anyone. Like, Jesus, they are bad. Next is Godzilla King of the Monsters from 2019. So, Godzilla and Mothra kind of team up to fight King Ghidorah, Rodan, and all the other monsters. Because King Ghidorah was like unfrozen by a terrorist group from his lair, and then he goes around and it turns out he's an alien in this one, and like the others versions, and so because he's an alien, he's a false alpha for the monsters, or as they call them, Titans in this one. So Ghidorah, and Godzilla have an ancient rivalry, and so at the end of the movie, Godzilla kind of goes thermonuclear and explodes and really destroys the city of Boston and kills King Ghidorah, and then all the monsters bow to Godzilla. And honestly, I know some fans don't like this movie, but I really enjoyed it. I remember seeing it in theaters, and I honestly just had a blast doing it. I won't forget the first time seeing Godzilla and King Ghidorah fight on the big screen. It was magical for me. Unfortunately, this one does not star Elizabeth Olsen. God damn it, Legendary Pictures. So the next one is Godzilla vs. Kong, which was supposed to come out in 2020. Fuck you, COVID. So Godzilla and Kong fight, and it's revealed that the Hollow Earth theory, which is a dumb conspiracy theory that there is hollow parts of the Earth that have other civilizations and stuff in them. Turns out it's real. I don't know how they have a sun down there, considering that's impossible, but okay. So Kong and Godzilla keep fighting throughout the movie because they're both alpha titans. And so Kong, with the help of the humans, goes into Hollow Earth and kind of claims domain over it after fighting with Godzilla. And then Godzilla shows up once again and makes Kong come back to the surface so they can fight and decide who's the real alpha. And Godzilla wins. Kind of obviously. It's kind of one-sided, really. But then Godzilla fights Mechagodzilla, who is created by this evil company called Apex Cybernetics, and they make Mechagodzilla so he can destroy all the Titans and stuff. However, he's foiled by the human characters disabling his security systems, and Godzilla and Kong team up to fight him, and Godzilla kind of leaves respecting Kong now and not killing him for now. And overall, I really enjoyed this one. Really, really enjoyed this one. I love it. I don't know what else to say. It's got the ridiculousness of the Showa era Godzilla movies, but also the really, really cool action. And it just feels like you don't often see. 20 years ago, people thought that Godzilla and King Kong would never be able to cross over again. But look at this now, and now we got a whole cinematic universe with them both. And I don't know, there's something magical about seeing them both on the same screen. I don't know what to tell you. I love this. So the next one is Godzilla -1. The only problem with this one is that I had to because it only came out in Japan or in certain theaters, I wasn't able to see it in theaters, and it hasn't come out on streaming yet, so I had to find this really shitty version where it had really shitty audio on this free movie website. I'm saying that with heavy quotation marks. I likely that I likely he may have gotten a virus, but who knows? Because the website was super sketchy. So I was able to watch this movie on there, and overall, it was pretty damn good. Like, the human characters are actually interesting for once, which there's like 30 of these movies, so that's really saying something. Um, Overall, really decent movie. I would recommend people watch it. Unless you want to get a virus, unless you don't want to get a virus, then I would not recommend you watch it. The next one is the latest one, Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire, which just a really shitty name. The New Empire. That's like, can you not come up with a better name at all? So basically, Kong in Hollow Earth is like searching for others of his kind, and he eventually finds them, but they're being ruled by this evil ape called the Scar King, who wants to use this other Titan who has like ice powers to like start a new ice age on the surface world and conquer it. And so they fight, and because Kong can't take them both on alone, he gets Gods. He kind of team. He tries to get Godzilla to come with him, but Godzilla tries to kill him until Mothra shows up. And it's like, no, no, don't do that. You be team up now, be friends. And so like, oh, and so they're like friends now. And then they go down to Hollow Earth, and then they eventually go up to the surface Earth to fight Scar King and the Ice One and the Ice Monster. And they kick the Scar King's ass because the Ice Monster, like, is free from his grasps because he was controlling her through pain, through this, like, crystal thing. And so, after destroying that, she, like, joins Godzilla and Kong and freezes him before they both brutally murder him by, like, smashing him down while he's frozen, so his brains splatter all over. I saw this in theaters and I really enjoyed it. The human characters suck. I mean, they're forgettable, but that's to be expected. There was this one Australian guy in it, or at least I think he's Australian, and he was so fucking annoying throughout the movie. Like he constantly is chiming in with these like shitty punchlines, and he's just not funny. Like, overall, really decent movie. So yeah, this concludes my 2-week torture of watching all these movies, and yeah. And if I ever have to watch another shitty English dub of a Japanese movie ever again, I'm gonna shoot myself in the fuck